Well, welcome everyone to today's episode of TMI Advice You Didn't Want. Today we are talking about deja vu. Anybody else ever had weird deja vu and you're just like, I feel like I just did this before? Well, we're going to be talking about that today, and we're going to be diving into maybe if that means something, does it mean nothing? What is it? So, in case we haven't met, my name is Karin Angelly. I'm one of the co-hosts here on TMI.
And my name is Ashley, and I'm excited to have this topic, especially because it's happening to me right now.
Right now. Yeah, exactly. We jumped. So this is what's funny about this podcast. We were like, okay, what do we want to talk about? We've been like, we need to start planning out like more specifics of what we want to talk about. Because we want to deliver more to you guys. So when we jumped on today's call, Ashley was like, oh my God, I'm feeling so much deja vu with what you're saying right now, Karin. I can't even like shake the feeling. And I'm like, we're talking about deja vu. I'm sorry. That's what's happening.
But that's also the awesome thing about the podcast is we're doing this to have fun and to talk about like real,
Mhm.
it's TMI because it's all real. And so it's really relevant to our current life at the moment. And I think that also makes it more relatable. I
Mhm.
love listening to other people that talk about podcasts where they're talking about their life, and I can relate very easily. So I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah. So, I mean, okay. So, deja vu, in case anybody doesn't know what deja vu is, I can't imagine that you don't. But basically, it just felt like, oh my God, I feel like I've done this already. Like, I feel like I'm here.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, Ashley, but deja vu can happen in some of the weirdest experiences. And a lot of times for me, it's like mundane, normal experiences that I'm like, I feel like I've done this already. And it's like, I know I haven't though. So for example, one time that I had deja vu, we were in the car. Oh no, we were in a bus because somebody was driving us. We were in St. Augustine and we were driving over a bridge, right? And I had the strangest feeling that I had done it before, that all of the circumstances that I was currently doing, I had already done. And I was like, that's so strange because I've never been in this bus before. I've crossed this bridge before, but I was driving whenever I was crossing this bridge. And what's fun is that Matthew actually in that moment too, this is the reason I remember it so well. He had the strangest like release is the best way he could describe it. Because whenever we were driving over that bridge, he was like looking off in the distance and he just felt this deep level of gratitude
Mhm.
that he was like that was deeper than I could have, like I didn't fabricate it, it just suddenly came up. And so it just is really funny that we both had that kind of experience at the same time. So for me, I feel like there was a huge shift that happened in that moment. I feel like that's what that deja vu was in that moment. But yeah, that was like not my most recent, but my most memorable experience of deja vu and just being like, whoa, something strange just happened. And we
Mhm.
actually, Matthew at the time was talking to our mutual mentor, and he was telling her about that experience that we had had, and she was like, whoa, like she got chills, and she's like, and I just got chills just thinking about it again. She was like, wow, you've shifted something huge. And she was
Mhm.
like experiencing it with him as he was telling her all of that. So just really fascinating. But I'm curious what your thoughts are on deja vu.
I don't know. Like, I think that's what's fun about this also is that we kind of like talk about things that we haven't really figured out yet. And
Yeah, it's
we
true.
don't know everything.
No.
Um, Yeah, I know. For our situation, like you were talking about how you had like a sinus infection after having a deep meditation, it's like a huge release. And it's interesting because to me, that's what whenever I have like a lot of congestion in my face, and I've always had like a postnasal drip and all that kind of stuff, I've always viewed it as like a detox, as a release. And even just I was volunteering at my son's school the other day, and the teacher's like, "Oh my gosh, like I just keep keep on sneezing, and like my nose just won't stop. And she had been sick the week prior, and she's like, I hope I'm not getting sick again. And I'm like, no, it's probably your body like actually fully releasing and getting better. And she's like, oh, I'm gonna go with that. And so anyways, just random. So when you're saying that, it was like, oh man, like I feel like we've had this conversation before. I'm like, I feel like both of us have been here before. And I just recently had a cold that was just like that, but I believe that I felt like a deja vu from a time where we both had a cold that was just like that. And it was from a release, and like coffee enemas do it for me and all that kind of stuff. So it could be something along those lines, but I think it's more so like just confirmation at the end of the day. Like it's like, oh man, I've been in this exact spot before. Like I feel like we've had this exact conversation. I feel like I've heard you say these exact words. And so like, what does that mean? To me, that's just a confirmation of like, yeah, like whatever's happening is good. Whatever's happening is on the right path. Like you're detoxing, you're aligning, like you're raising your vibration, whatever it is, it's all moving in that path. And I think that shows up in lots of different ways, like the chills that you talked about, or like sometimes we cough, sometimes our stomach gurgles, and of course I talk about it, we yawn, all those things can be confirmations, and deja vu, I think, is one of them.
Yeah.
So
No, I would
yeah.
definitely agree with that. I feel like deja vu is just another experience that our body has.
Mhm.
Um like for me, one thing that I've noticed recently for myself is that when I find something to be the truth, or I know something is the way to go, I start getting this strange, it's not really even lightheaded, but it's like my head feels light. That's hilarious. But it's like this like floaty feeling in my brain. And that's really been happening a lot for me recently. It's just fun to really pay attention to these kind of things and all the different things that your body does in response to what's going on around you. And how it can actually be that confirmation of
Yeah.
what's going on. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that made me think of two different stories for me. So first, with the whole like brain lightheaded feeling, it's not like dizzy, spinny lightheaded.
no,
It's
it's not
like,
dizzy spinny. It's like you're
yeah, and
floaty.
it's my best relation to that is how we were in court last week for fighting for our children, like the most stressful thing, the most like intense about every single piece of information that's coming to us and that we're saying. And when I was off the stand, I felt like someone had been like to my brain, like it was like hard and stiff and like expanding and heavy and all over the fucking place.
Hmm.
And when I was on the stand, or so we self-represented ourselves, but it's my partner who's technically the biological father, so he's the party. I'm just a witness.
Hmm.
But we were able to argue against her lawyer and get the judge to agree with us that I would represent for my partner, which is unheard of, which is really cool. And so I was the one that was talking. I was the one that was cross-examining his ex. And in the actual moment of me saying my testimony or me cross-examining her, it was that same feeling where it just felt like light, it felt in flow, it felt like no heaviness, no pressure, like all that kind of feeling, because I was in that present moment, just moving, just flowing, and then I would get off the stand, I would stop cross-examining her, and it would be like, woo, like just like this intense heaviness, because then I'm like thinking and processing, and I'm not in that same flow because I'm like, and I think there is a time and place for that too, especially in a court situation where you're evaluating what was said and planning what you're going to say. But I think what you're talking about is optimal, like that optimal light feeling, that is the optimal flow, present and peaceful state. And when we are in that, we're not overthinking, over and analyzing, over feeling.
Hmm.
We just are. And so our whole body just feels light. And with this being like our crown chakra, our third eye chakra, it's not tense and constricted, it's in flow. And so we feel that. I think, yeah, that's just a really awesome place to be.
Mm.
And in my cross-examination of her, I just allowed myself to be in flow, and I was very successful in it, having never experienced anything like that whatsoever, have no way of prepping. I'm not a lawyer, I've never gone to school for anything like it, but I believe that third eye, that intuition, that flow just took over. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think that that can be the case in instances of deja vu too, where it's like,
Yes.
oh, like, holy shit, like I've done this before.
Yeah.
And it's like there's this intuitive guidance that's happening, and you're like,
Yeah.
wait, like, oh my God, I'm getting massive chills as I'm about to say this. It's like, I've already done this, so what do I have to be worried about? You know, like this, that whole that
Yes.
deja vu is like, but I've already done this. Like, there's nothing to be excited or worried about because it's already happened. It's complete. And I mean, really, if you look at time is just a construct. Like really all things are happening right now. And so the concept of deja vu is like, yeah, it has already happened. Like it is already, it just is, you know, like take too much time and think about this, your brain will explode. But it, like you, when you really like look at how our universe is created, it really does all just compile onto the present moment. The right now is the only thing that actually matters. And when we jump into like this physical body, that's when we actually start to create on a timeline in a sense. Like
Yeah.
we like this physical body like draws us into a more dense way of creating. And so that's what creates the timeline. But it doesn't change the fact that we're also a very physical or spiritual being as well, and that we've already done it all and we've been all things at all times. Like I said, you think about that too long and your brain will probably explode.
Yeah, it's like it's a peaceful confirmation. So that's kind of the story. My other story, it's not deja vu, but it's that peaceful confirmation.
Mm,
So I love dragons. Dragons have shown up in my life a lot. My brother is very I think it's clairvoyant where you see things, or is that when you hear things?
no, that's
What's
when you see
okay.
clairvoyant. Yeah.
And so he sees a lot, and he sees a lot of dragons. And so that has always been a part of my life just growing up with him. My daughter, my oldest, is obsessed with dragons, like unbelievably obsessed with dragons. My partner, when I met him, was in the plan of getting a dragon tattoo on his back. Like they're just very, very relevant in our lives. Our school, the animal for our children's school is a dragon.
Hmm.
And it's fun. It's the year of the dragon right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so many cool things. And so I was at my son's school yesterday volunteering. And so trying to make this story as concise as possible, we are moving. We had thought about moving. We were then told we had to move because our landlord was moving into our house. There is a house that we found that's perfect for our children in every way. Probably will make my life a lot easier, but it's the like typical white picket fence kind of life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also like a block away from Derek, where Derek, my partner, lived with his ex. And so I'm like, I'm like always like, I want to be the crazy hippie in the forest, not like in the most like stereotypical, like this is like the cul-de-sac that we're moving into is like the cul-de-sac. Like I told one of my friends, she's like, oh my gosh, that's my dream cul-de-sac. Like it's like a typical white picket fence cul-de-sac.
That's
And I'm
awesome.
like, and it feels like I was like at conflict of like who I wanted to be and like, but on a stereotypical level, you know? And so I had a little bit of conflict because of these stereotypes and material ideals of I just want to be a hippie in the forest and you know, and so then We decided to go with the place because it's going to make our life so much easier being so close to the kids' school. And I was in my son's classroom yesterday and we were talking about the Chinese New Year, and his teacher was talking, not we. And she was telling the students, and there's a window that goes out of his classroom and looks up on the mountainscape. And so this is the mountainscape right here. And this right here is where my house is going to be. I can see my roof of my house from my son's classroom.
Mm.
And she said, so the guy who built the school, it was all farmland. His name was Jacques Mar, and or it was named after him. I don't know. Anyways, the person that built the school decided to build it there because it looked like a dragon's body sleeping.
Mm.
And he thought it was going to bring good luck. And she said that story. I got chills through my whole body. I said the story now again. I got chills through my
Chills
whole
again.
body.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, that's confirmation. Like, this is going to be, there's a dragon sleeping over our house, over our children's school. It's going to bring us good luck. And I just was like, wow. And so the first thing my son says to me when I pick him up from school that day, because I was only there for an hour in the morning, was this story. And I'm like, I know, honey, I was there. He's like, oh, it's just so cool. And so it had a huge impact on him too. He then told his brother and sister, they thought that was awesome. We like stayed at the school and looked at the hill and all that kind of stuff. And it was a big, cool thing. And I'm just like, these are the moments where you just feel so present, so peaceful, such that blissful confirmation. And that is like where you want to live. Like
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Yeah. And that's really what all of the weird things that happen, like chills, or my ears are ringing, or my head feels floaty, or deja vu, or whatever. For me, those are like those little nudges throughout the day. And the
Mhm.
thing is that the more you pay attention to those things, the more that they actually happen,
Yes.
for one,
Mhm.
and the
Yeah.
more strong they come and the more that you pay
Mhm.
attention. Because I know, because I have a friend who I talk all the time about how I get chills and stuff when I'm saying certain things, because I'm like, oh my God, this is real, like this is happening. And she's like, I never get that. That's not a thing for me. And for me, I think that that's because there's a disconnect between her intuition. There's more of a logical build. Like she's definitely more focused on the logic and all of that. And there's definitely less for her of an understanding. I think that's really what it comes down to, an understanding of the intuition and what happens when you're getting those intuitive nudges. I think like so often in life, like I remember when I was a Christian and I would always ask God, give me a sign, tell me that I'm doing the right thing. And I think I was just missing the signs, like it's not that I wasn't getting them, it's that I was missing them. I wasn't actually paying attention. And that's like, we talk about this all the time on TMI, getting into that present moment and really noticing is what creates that deeper intuitive pull, that deeper understanding. One thing that a really good mentor of mine talks about is he's like, listen, if you want to change in your life, don't get good at positive thinking, get good at noticing. Just
Mhm.
get really freaking scary good at noticing what's going on inside of you and around you. And
Yeah.
notice how you feel inside. Does it reflect what's going on the outside? Like what's the correlation? Just
Mhm.
getting really good at getting present and getting that noticing. And I love that he said, like, don't get good at positive thinking, because all of us get so stuck in, oh, if I think positive thoughts for 5 minutes a day, then
Mhm.
the gurus are telling me that I'm going to be successful. And that's unfortunately not the way that it works, because for that rest of the minutes, other than those 5 minutes a day that you've spent in your positive thinking space, what are you thinking and what are you feeling and what are you noticing and what are you not noticing?
Oh,
Um,
for sure.
so to me, like, at the end of the day, it's truly about like getting so present and starting to notice those things that come your way. Notice the coincidences. Like, I don't believe in coincidences anymore. Like, that's not even truly a thing in my world. I just think like those are my confirmations. Those are my intuitive things that are showing me the direction of where to go. So,
Yeah. And like 5 minutes is better than nothing,
yes,
but it's not going to manifest massive things because the massive amounts of your time isn't there. So start with 5 and then build and build.
absolutely.
And yeah, I saw a video on it just this morning about how it's really this balance between like the physical world and the spiritual world
Mhm.
and getting that to like connect. And that is being like that positive, neutral kind of space. But yeah, so oh, I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, there is techniques that you can use like to help you connect. And my friend, our friend, he taught me them years ago. So maybe he would be a good person to have jump on and do a guest appearance and teach us those techniques for connecting, so that you can feel the spirit and you can feel your team working with you and moving more. So once you get those connections, once you get that alignment, and then you notice and take notice of those things, it's the simple fact of if you don't use it, you lose it. And that's true for everything, whether it's
Mhm.
exercising or even people have talked about Taylor Swift. She's the big, big, big thing right now.
My
And people are like,
God.
how do you keep on creating? Like, how do you release album after album and win? And like, you're not putting out shit, like you're putting out winning things. And she's like, I just create, like, and the more I create, the more it comes. And like, there's a famous person from like years ago, I can't remember who said this, like an Einstein type person that says like the more you create, the more you have to create because you're
Mhm.
using that skill. So it's going to keep flowing. One of my good friends who is a medium, like he talks about how when he works with his team and he uses his skills as a medium, he'll have tons of spirits work with him and communicate with him and give him confirmation. But if he stops talking to them and working with them, he'll have like 5 to
Mhm.
pull on. And so the more you utilize it, the more you have. So just like you said, the more chills you notice, the more coincidences you notice, the more you're going to notice. And I think that's the cool thing is it's really the same lines of what you focus on, you get back, what you pour into and give your energy to, you get back. And it's that law of attraction. I think it's a different law though, specifically.
Yeah, but I
What is it?
mean,
It's
I
the same
mean,
thing, but
it
there's a
it
specific
is the
law to it.
same. Yeah, it is the same concept. But yeah, at the end of the day, like you said, what you focus on grows. So,
Mhm.
like I said, I have had many friends through the years, and I've even asked myself, like, how do I deepen my intuition? It really
Yeah.
just is about the noticing, like noticing those deja vus and going, huh, what does that correlate to within me
Mhm.
right now? What's going on with me right now?
Yeah.
And like really focusing on that and just being so present in the moment. I mean, like we make life so difficult, I feel like. Like we're like, "Oh my God, God, give me a sign, like tell me this is the direction that I need to go." I remember making that prayer. And now I'm like I look back and I'm like that was the silliest thing that I ever did because they're literally everywhere. There are always synchronicities around you. You're just like the more you start paying attention to them, they come faster and faster and harder and bigger and more and more and more. And
Mhm.
one funny, hilarious synchronicity that happened today, we actually got a check in the mail. Was it yesterday or today? Actually, I think it was yesterday. We got a check in the mail and we were like looking at it and we're like, this is from the government. This is hilarious because earlier in 2023, we got a notice from the government saying, hey, you messed up on your taxes and you actually owe us this much money. Well, come to find out, like they gave us back money, which we both, my husband and I just both looked at each other and we're like, this is fucking hilarious. But
Yeah.
these are the synchronicities that we're talking about. Like these are the things to notice. And like I think personally, if my husband and I hadn't been open to receiving more, open to receiving money in general, that check would have never come because I've
Mhm.
never had so many weird checks come in the mail as I have in 2023 and since, like I've
Yeah.
never had so many weird synchronicities lining up with money as I have now. And I think it all comes down to the fact that what you focus on grows. And so
Yeah.
my husband and I have just been really focusing on, for us, yes, deepening our intuition, but also deepening our ability to accept and receive.
Yeah.
And that's been really, really cool to see as we let go of old programs that were keeping us stuck with our money. Now it's like, nope, we don't have that anymore, because weird stuff
Mhm.
will, like, random money will just come in the mail from the friggin' government. Like, who gets paid back from the government? That's weird. But that is literally what happened
Yeah.
yesterday. So it's so funny, like, noticing really is, at the end of the day, in my opinion, if you want to create that change, if you want to see something different in your life, look at what's going on around you right now. How does
Mhm.
it correlate? How
Yeah.
does it correlate with what you're feeling inside? When you're looking out there, maybe inside you're feeling like trash, and you're looking out there and everything you see just is trash. You're just like, ugh, this is a mess. I can't believe I created this in my life. Like, that's what created that
Yeah.
feeling right there. So tapping
Yeah.
into a new feeling. I mean, Ashley, you and I were talking about earlier about so Dr. Joe Dispenza, he talks about this a lot, something called mental rehearsal. Mentally rehearsing how you want to feel when a certain thing happens. So,
Mhm.
mentally rehearsing, if you're looking, like in your case, you're like mentally rehearsing, how do I want to feel when I go into that courtroom and I'm doing what I need to do in order to create justice in my life, right? So, you're mentally rehearsing how you're going to feel. You're focusing on that feel good. And here's the thing, mental rehearsal can be a negative thing. Like, let's talk about that for a second. A lot of us do mental rehearsal in a catastrophizing way, right? Like, we're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, the worst thing, this is the worst thing that's going to happen. And our brain goes to the worst thing because we know if we think about the worst thing and we catastrophize, then anything better that happens is like, oh, thank God that didn't happen. And so
Yeah.
that's our MO. Like, that's our program that a lot of us run on. I know I did for years, and I still find myself going, no, I don't need to worry about that. That's not really a thing. So, but really focusing on the noticing of that and going, wait a second, I want to mentally rehearse something different. I want to
Yeah.
mentally rehearse an outcome where I feel good. And
Yeah.
even if the outside world isn't reflecting that, being able to jump into that state is
Mhm.
like what creates at the end of the
Mhm.
day. Going, oof,
Yeah.
everything around me looks like trash, but it doesn't matter because I can figure out what I'm loving about me and what I love about this moment. And that's what creates the new reality.
Well, and even when you can't find something, be like, there was moments at court where I'm like, the judge didn't agree with what I just asked him on the last day. And um, I don't like that. And I thought I would manifest the response that I wanted. And I was like, um kind of like not happy about it, and I caught myself. I'm like, no, the best thing is going to happen.
Mhm.
Whatever is in the best interest for me is going to happen. And so I let that go, and I got present again. And then within hours of court being over that day, I was like, shit, that was the best thing. He just denied me what I asked for, but I what I got was actually better. I just didn't know it at the time. And so sometimes we can't see that, yeah, this might look all bad, and we might not be able to say, okay, this is a good thing in our current awareness. But then just trusting that it's all going to work out because it does. And then fast forward, and then you have the hindsight, and you're like, oh, okay, that's how it all worked out for me, even though I thought this situation was going to be better. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
And that right there, like, you going, wait a minute, like, I don't need to worry about like the worst possible thing. I can actually go, no, this always is working out for my best interest. And I might not know how. That's the beautiful thing about manifestation. We don't always know how it's going to work out in our best interest, but we just know that it will. And so the more that we stick in that world instead of sticking in the catastrophizing world of, oh my God, everything always goes the worst, you're creating the worst now. But when you go,
Yeah.
no, it always works out for me, like even if I don't know, like
Mhm.
that's creating a whole new reality for you to be able to step into. Whereas if you had stayed in that catastrophe place, maybe it wouldn't have worked out, like we'll never really know on the timeline that we've chosen.
Yeah.
We'll never really know. But I think at the end of our life, I think that we spend some time and we look at the different timelines that we could have chosen. And there's thousands upon millions of timelines that we could have chosen. And we can
Yeah.
see the tiny threads between all of them. And this is just like, this is what I think that we'll be able to look at that and just go, wow, everything is so connected. There is so much possibility of what I can create. So
Mhm.
just interesting out of the box thought right there, but yeah.
Well, I think that's really the cool thing too, because in my situation, like court in general has been over 3 years now in the process. Like we started this process over 3 years ago, and it's not normal for a custody
Mhm.
case to even take a year, let alone to
Mhm.
take three. And we have a continuance for another 3 months. So it's going to be almost 3.5 years before we actually get there. And I could talk about all the shitty things that has been a result of that. But I can also look back and be like, there's so much that we didn't see originally or halfway through or whatever it was that has been working out in our favor. And it's been awesome. Of course, that didn't make the last 3 years fun. But there's a lot that have made it so that this specific situation is going to be so much more in our favor. And there's probably so much that I don't even have awareness around yet.
Mhm.
We don't even know what's going to happen between now and May. So
Yeah.
it's cool when you just allow that to happen and allow the best outcome to happen for you and not try to control it and not try to manipulate it or anything like that.
Yeah. And that's the most fun when you can look back and just go, it just is. Like I look at
Mhm.
like myself in building businesses, right? When I first started building my business, I just blew up. I created a six-figure business pretty freaking fast. And then I decided I wanted to build a business differently. I wanted to build online. And I've had
Mhm.
some level of success, but it's never been the same. And so I can look back at that though, and I can go, it's the process though.
Mhm.
This is all part of the process. It's like there's something that I'm building myself up for. I don't
Mhm.
necessarily know what exactly that is, but I've finally gotten in the place where I'm like, no, there's nothing to change. Like I'm already doing the get in the present moment, focus on my intuition. I'm already doing that. There is
Yeah.
literally nothing to change. So when I feel like when you settle into that place, you get exactly where you said, Ashley, where it's just like, no, this is like it sucks that it's been 3 years, but what don't I know? What's not in my awareness? And I be okay with that? And now I'm
Oh.
getting massive chills again talking about this. So, but with that, I'd say that this is a pretty good place to wrap up. This was a great conversation. I know like I know anything to do with tapping more into your intuition and seeing things like deja vu or body chills or whatever, and like going, okay, that's my intuition. That's my nudge. I need to keep paying attention to that kind of thing. That will take you so, so far in life. But if you loved us, then go ahead and leave us a 5 star on your favorite podcast host. And if you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and tap that like button, smash the subscribe. We'd love to hang out with you more. And let us know, what are some of your thoughts? What are some of your comments? We'd love to hear those as well. So with that, I guess we will call this TMI advice you didn't want, a wrap for this week. So we'll see you all next time.